Okay.
I said the kids stay up.
Very good. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and get started. I appreciate Maxine and Cordell being here too. I think support, maybe keep an eye on me too. I don't know. Do either of you want to say anything before we get going?
I'll just quickly, I just want to let you know how excited we are to have Mike on board. We hope that these town meetings will give you an opportunity to get to know him a little bit, him to get to know you a little bit, and be able to kind of build some relationships right off the bat. We want him to hit the ground running. We're excited. We think we've got the right guy for the job. We went through a rigorous recruitment process, and we are really happy with the choice that we made in selecting Mike to come and be part of our team here at Bear Lake Memorial. So just want everybody, if you've got questions, feel free to ask him. He's very open, unassuming, and I'm sure he'll be straightforward and truthful with you about anything that you want to ask. We look forward to having him jump in the leadership role, and we want him to hit the ground running. So as part of his welcoming, just don't hesitate to get to know him and welcome him as part of the team. And I'll just turn the time over to you, Mike, to share some about yourself and then we met.
Okay, that's perfect. Thanks, Cordell. Yeah, so I was asked, kind of suggested, and Trish and I talked about this a little bit, and I'm thrilled to be here. I think this is a great way to kind of get out there, maybe share a little bit about myself, my background. Didn't necessarily have a lot of direction as far as what to share, and I haven't really started yet, so I don't have a lot of input around exactly what's happening here, but I'm really interested to learn. I want to hear your thoughts, and so we can talk about that. But generally, it's just kind of like the Mike show. I have just some pictures, and I thought I'd just share a little bit about my background and who I am, and kind of learn about me. You're going to see pictures of my kids, my family, so we can talk about that a little bit, so you get to know us and me. And I have some information about my background professionally, where I've been, and a little bit of what I've done and what interests me. But really, it's just kind of pictures, and we can just talk. Like, any questions you have, I'm an open book. Like Cordell said, I want to hear your thoughts. I'm happy to respond with my thoughts about anything, and we can kind of go from there. Does that sound fair? Mm-hmm. Okay. So before I get to the pictures here, any burning questions, anything you guys just have to get off your chest? No? Okay. Okay, I haven't actually used this clicker yet, but I think Nate probably set me up good, so here we go. Oh no, it didn't work. Oh, there we go. All right. Look at that cute kid. Yeah? Where's the button here?
The laser pointer?
Look at that guy. Yeah? So that's me. So, man, that was kind of a nerdy kid. So this is my family. I grew up in Burley, Idaho, so not too far away, really. I'm the oldest. I've got two younger brothers. My parents there. So this guy, his name's Jeff. He's in American Falls right now. He's a school teacher, and his wife as well. That's my youngest brother. His name is Remington. I don't know where Remington came from. I got Michael, Jeffrey, and then Remington. But yeah, great family. So this is kind of my childhood, right? So I did 4-H, and you guys have done 4-H, and so I grew up on a farm. So we did sugar beets in 4-H. So this is a picture we took to show off our crop one year. So me and my brother. So this is just in my backyard, basically, where I grew up on the sugar field. So that's a little bit, it kind of gives you an idea of kind of where I grew up and what it looked like. And still pretty adorable, as you can see. So I don't know if you can read the print. This gives you a little bit more background about me. So this is a junior high yearbook, and you get selected, voted on for things. So this is me. This is my younger brother, Jeff. I was voted as the 9th grade bookworm, and Jeff was voted as the 7th grade bookworm. So we got our pictures together in the yearbook as the bookworms. So I was a pretty studious, like I said, kind of nerdy kid. I read a lot, voraciously, obviously. I got voted as a bookworm. So yeah, I was really into reading, and just spent a lot of time outdoors and on the farm. And yeah, so it's a little bit about me. Kind of, I think, quiet as a kid. My dad farmed with his brothers and his dad, so I spent a lot of time with my cousins. Those are kind of my friends as I was growing up. It's just a picture I really like. It's kind of my teenage years. So this is me out driving a tractor. You wouldn't know this by looking at the picture, but this wheel is actually falling off. I was driving it and something broke, and so I was just killing time. And my cousin was there, and so we had a camera. I said, "Why don't you take a picture of me?" And I don't know, I just think I look very, I don't know, very farmery. So, but yeah, so this is how I spent my summer years as a teenager, just out driving tractor and working. Moved a lot of hand lines. I was in much better shape back then. So, it's a little bit about me, my background. So I graduated from Idaho State, and this is my wife, Amy. So I got 2 degrees at ISU in Spanish and in business management. So while I went to ISU, I worked as well. First, interestingly, I got a job. I don't know really how I got this job, but I worked in juvenile detention. So I was like a prison guard for teenagers. It's probably because I was so like rough and mean looking that they hired me.
That's gonna come in handy.
So yeah, in Pocatello, that's District 6 juvenile detention. So I did that a lot, and they accept juvenile delinquents from kind of this. I think they might take them from this area as well. I know Soda, remember some from Soda. But I actually love that job. It was probably one of my favorite jobs because you get to work with these troubled teens and try and make a connection and be a good influence. And I also worked as an interpreter. So I did court interpreting. I did interpreting at the hospital when I was in Pocatello, and I just really liked the hospital setting. I'd get called up at weird hours. And this is kind of when Portnoy was starting an interpreting program, so it was new for them and new for me, and I just really liked it. I'd get called up and see different scenarios, different situations. So I was at a point where I was thinking, what am I going to do? I was thinking about getting more education, some kind of master's degree, and I just thought I really liked the healthcare stuff. I thought about actually doing interpreting for a living, but the healthcare intrigued me more. And my father-in-law is a nurse anesthetist, and so I was talking to him about it, and he said, well, have you thought about healthcare? You got a business degree, what about healthcare stuff? So I talked to some people in the field, and I don't know, just it really kind of spoke to me. I thought, that's what I want to do. I like the thought of working in this, with good people, and it just felt right. So I ended up going to the University of Michigan. That's right, yeah. Who was that? Yeah. So why Michigan? My wife and I were recently married, and we thought, well, let's kind of go on an adventure. And Michigan was just rated really high for the program I was going into. I interviewed at a couple different schools: North Carolina, Minnesota, and Michigan. And Michigan just ended up being the right fit for us. And we just loved living there. So I grew up, like I said, on the farm. Sports was not important to my family, really. I didn't do sports growing up. So I didn't know anything about sports. So we go to Michigan, and Amy, my wife's like, well, we need to get tickets. We need to go to the football game. And I said, that sounds like a waste of money. Why would we do that? They're really expensive. And she said, you don't get it, Mike. We need to go to some games. So we ended up getting some tickets and kind of got hooked. It's just a ton of fun. So I don't know. Have you guys heard of Michigan football? Yeah, it's a big deal there. It's like a religion. The stadium seats like 115,000 people, something ridiculous. And it is just a ton of fun. So we kind of got hooked on that. So the first year I drug my feet. The second year I bought us tickets, season tickets. And we just loved living in Michigan. It was a ton of fun. Just, great atmosphere, great place. And good football. So now we're kind of raising our kids the Michigan way, and we have a good time with that. So.
Okay, Jordan.
Absolutely.
Yeah, wait a minute. Maybe an Ohio State fan, maybe?
Oh, no.
Okay. Okay, so after Michigan, I got it's called a fellowship, kind of like they call it an administrative residency or fellowship. It was kind of a cool deal for me because I went straight from undergrad to graduate school. I didn't really have experience in healthcare other than interpreting. So I thought, oh man, what's a good way for me to get some good exposure? So I got this thing as a 1-year fellowship, kind of training, internship, extended, glorified internship, I guess, with a system called Poudre Valley Health System, which was in northern Colorado. It was based out of Fort Collins. And I ended up under the CEO of this hospital. It's called Medical Center of the Rockies in Loveland, Colorado. Have you guys heard of Fort Collins, Loveland, right? So just a great area. We really like that. This hospital was like brand new when I moved there. And it's just a really good experience. So I got to hang out with all the senior leaders. I got to go to all their meetings, and they gave me projects. So for a whole year, I just kind of soaked it all in. And they asked me to manage a clinic for a while, which I did. So it was really good for me to kind of cut my teeth and get some good experience. While I was with this system, they got something called the Baldrige Award. If you guys have heard of that, it's kind of a prestigious it's for a lot of different industries. Manufacturing and education and healthcare can use it. It's just based around your processes and your results. So they applied for this. They'd been applying for years, and they had many site visits. And the year I was there, they actually won the award, which is a pretty big deal. So for me, that was really awesome because I got exposed to their application and all these interviews, and I got to see kind of how they had structured their system and how they set their goals and benchmarks and how they tried to meet those. So really good exposure for me. In fact, after I left this system, I volunteered and was selected to be a judge for the Baldrige program. So I worked with other people from around the nation to judge other systems qualifications and applications. And if they got scored high enough, I would have gone on a site visit and done all the interviews. But none of the applications I reviewed scored high enough, but it was still a really good process. So I learned a lot with that. So really enjoyed Colorado. Had a great opportunity there. But when I was wrapping up, there wasn't really a position open for that. That's kind of the risk with a job like that. You know, it's an internship, and if there's a job open, there is, and if not, you know. So there was maybe an opportunity with the clinic I was working with, but I looked around a little bit, and I found a job in Eastern Oregon. So I'll talk about that. But first, I kind of check in with the crowd. Everyone doing okay? You guys on the edge of your seats? Yeah. Okay. Really, I recognize I'm just kind of talking a lot here, and I don't want to bore anyone. So if you have any questions, or if this is just too much, just give me the sign. We can do something different. Okay. So next, I got a map of Oregon here. So my job that I got after my fellowship was in this town here, called Heppner, Oregon. Anyone here heard of Heppner? I'm not surprised. It is. It's a small. It's like 2,000 people on a busy day. So the interstate kind of comes up along here, right along the river, the north border. So you guys heard of Pendleton? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Pendleton's pretty awesome. They've got Pendleton Roundup, really big rodeo. And then over here, there's a town called Hermiston Watermelons. Maybe you've heard of those, right? So yeah, I was just basically an hour plus due south of Hermiston on the interstate. So a small town. It was a small hospital, and you know, honestly, they kind of took a chance on me. You guys might appreciate this. So I was looking for jobs, and had something maybe in the works, but I just was really excited about this job in Oregon. I mean, it'd be awesome. You know, why would they take a guy like me basically right out of school and this internship? So I looked into it. They hired someone else. I backed off, and then I saw that job open up again like a month later. So that's interesting. So I called them, and what had happened is they hired someone, and he was excited, but then he brought his wife to look at the town, and his wife said, "I'm not living here. This town is too small for me," basically. And so he had to back out, and so they were in a real tough spot. They needed someone, and I kind of put my cape on and showed up, and I said I would love to live here, and my wife would love to live here, and I can do this job. And you know, I think they weren't totally sure, but they took a chance, and it worked out great. I had a great experience and did some really good things. So the hospital there was called Pioneer Memorial Hospital. It was actually a countywide health district. So there was a clinic up by the interstate, and another clinic in another town, rural health clinics. Small hospital, but it was just awesome. Just a great experience. We loved it. Loved living in a small town. It was good for us. So,
How long were you there?
4 years. Yeah, and you know, we weren't really anxious to move. We were settled and doing fine, but kind of an interesting opportunity. I was at like a state convention, and someone talked to me about an opening. It's not on this map, but you guys heard of Seaside, Oregon? Yeah, it's in Clatsop County, just south of Astoria, right there. So there's a hospital there. It's called Providence Seaside Hospital. So it's a part of the Providence Health System. You guys heard of Providence? Some of you. It's just a big national corporation. I think they're in like 6 states. I don't know, 30 hospitals, 40 hospitals. They're just really big. And then Oregon on the coast, they've got Providence Seaside. That's a critical access hospital, one of the smaller hospitals in Providence. But I had just made some connections in the States, so someone mentioned it to me, and I thought, well, that'd be kind of interesting. So I looked into it, because I was thinking that'd be kind of interesting to work in a larger system, maybe a larger hospital. Could live on the Oregon coast, that might be kind of fun. So I applied for it, and I got the job, and so we went to Seaside. You guys been to Seaside, anybody? Yeah, it is beautiful. It's incredible. So we really loved Seaside. In fact, I think I've got a picture here. So you can see this is my wife being funny. I thought that was kind of a funny picture there. But I picked this picture because this background, this was like 15 minutes from our house. It was just incredible. Yeah, we loved living there. It was a really cool place. So what happened? So I was there for, I think, 2+ years. The one thing I'll say about Seaside, though, you guys may or may not know this, it rains a lot there. And that affected me more than I thought it would. It was pretty cloudy and dark, particularly long winters. So that was okay. My wife, she liked it. But loved it. Things were going well. Probably could have stayed there for a while. But I'd maintained connections next time from Idaho, and so I'd stayed in touch with people from Idaho. And then someone called me about this job in Mountain Home. And, we kind of hemmed and hawed and said, I don't know, we're doing pretty good here. We're happy. So we weren't really sure what to do about, trying to recruit me to Mountain Home with St. Luke's. So if you'll indulge me, I'll tell another story real quick. So we were trying to decide whether to interview, whether to pursue it or not. So we purposely didn't tell any of our family members because we knew the minute we told them about a job in Idaho, they would, pull us in and lay a big guilt trip on us. So then there was the CEO of another hospital within the St. Luke's Health System. His name's Dennis. So Dennis used to work for Providence. So we didn't know each other, but we knew a lot of the same people. And so someone at St. Luke's called Dennis and said, you should talk to Mike, try and get Mike out here. So Dennis and I chatted a little bit, and so I was thinking about it. Well, Dennis went in Boise to get some eye procedure done. And it just so happened that my father-in-law was the nurse anesthetist who took care of him during his eye procedure. And so they were just chatting, and my father-in-law says, oh, so what do you do for a living? And Dennis says, oh, I work at St. Luke's. I'm kind of administration. And Steve, my father-in-law, says, oh, that's what my son-in-law does. He's in Seaside, Oregon. And Dennis says, well, that's got to be Mike Blauer. we're trying to recruit him to Mountain Home right now. And
oh, no.
So we kind of felt like, maybe this is just meant to be. And so, because obviously the minute he got done with the procedure, my father called me. He's like, you got to go to Mountain Home, Mike. You at least got to interview. So we interviewed, and we just got there, and we just felt like, man, you can appreciate this. So we went from this, and you guys, I'm sure, have driven by Mountain Home. So the morning, it was like February, and we open our hotel, and it's just like a field of sagebrush, right? But it was funny because I remember being there with my wife, and we just kind of laughed about it. But we just felt like this is where we're supposed to be. Like it's just things are working out, and so we ended up moving to Mountain Home. So that was 4.5 years ago. I think I have a picture of Mountain Home. So you guys might if you think of Mountain Home, right? So Mountain Home, you've got the Air Force Base, tumbleweeds. I don't know if you can see that picture very well here. That is an actual picture from Mountain Home area. And then the gas station. Any of you stop for gas? No? Yeah. That's kind of what it's known for. But it's a cool town. It really is. I was probably like most people in this room. I'd never actually been into Mountain Home. Just driven by it 100 times. But once we actually got in there and drove around and checked out the community, it's just a really cool place. So it's really become very special for us. We're going to miss it for sure. So the hospital I was at there, St. Luke's Elmore. I don't know if I have nope, I'll go back to it later. St. Luke's Elmore, part of the St. Luke's Health System. So did a lot of great work there. I kind of highlighted some of this during my interview, but we did some big remodels and expansions. The emergency department. Interestingly, we expanded the emergency department and we put in an MRI machine at the MRI while I was there. We put up some new buildings on campus. We set up kind of new structures for inpatient care. Did a lot of work in the ED. Became Joint Commission accredited. I don't know, just so a big thing too there. The Air Force Base. So they had a hospital on the base, which is about 10 miles from Mountain Home. So while I was there, the base, we were in touch a lot, and I worked with them, and they decided to actually close their hospital because they were pretty happy with what we were doing at our hospital. So I worked with them, and they closed their hospital. They kept their clinics, but they closed their hospital. So that for us meant we took on a lot of their patients, labor and delivery in particular, and surgery and inpatient care. So that was a big deal for the community, and we managed through that, and it was great. So it's a cool community, probably a lot of the same challenges that any rural area sees that you guys have seen here. You know, some recruiting and distance from certain things, but we loved it. It was interesting being close to Boise because we're close enough to Boise that a lot of people just go to Boise for everything, you know. But also far enough away that it was its own distinct community. So yeah, we liked it so much we bought a house there, and so we got to figure out what to do with that. But it's been good for us. So that's a little bit of my professional background. So why am I leaving Mountain Home? So I was part of St. Luke's Health System. St. Luke's, I think, is pretty innovative. I think a good system. But they went through a big corporate restructure kind of late last year, beginning of this year. And to my surprise, they eliminated my job. And also the job of many other CEOs. Our title was Site Administrator, CEO. So they eliminated some of those jobs, about 6 or 7 of us, which we weren't expecting. Our boards weren't expecting, and it was disappointing for sure, but that's just life and kind of the risk of working in a corporation too. So water under the bridge, and we just thought, okay, well, there's something else in store for us, and so we've been looking around, and happy to land here, really, and I'll talk more about that. So that's my professional background. Maybe I'll take a little bit of a break. You guys have any questions, any comments?
Did you mention you hate long winters?
No, I don't hate long winters. I don't like too much cloud cover and rain. And I don't hate it. I deal with it. Actually, when the draws here it's in Idaho, obviously, and I don't think it rains all winter long. So I know there's a lot of snow.
I'm just messing with you.
Yeah. Well, there's a picture in here later. But I want folks to know, like, I think we know what we're getting into. I came to visit in March, and I'll talk about that. And Trish was good enough to show me around. And, we crested the hill and thought, man, there's a lot of snow down here still. And that's just fine, because we like to ski and we like some of the outdoor stuff too. So it's a good question, though. Anything else? What do you guys think? Questions about professional background? Any comments? Makes sense so far? Okay. Everybody keeping up okay? Okay. All right, so now we're going to get to the important stuff. You remember that nerdy kid at the very beginning? And who would have thought he'd turn into this guy right here? So this is my family. That's my wife, Amy. So Amy's in town today. She came with me, so she's out cruising the community, looking at some homes, things like that. This is my son, Cable, with a K. He'll tell you that. Cable with a K. He's 9. My son, Jaron, Jaron. He's 7. My daughter, Vivian. And then our little boy, Ruben. Oh, so Vivian's 5, and Ruben is almost 11 months. So they're pretty cute kids, I know.
He didn't get cheated on the hair, did he?
Well, no, he didn't. So let me talk about that a little bit, because some folks might look at Ruben and say, wait a minute, where did that hair come from? So my kids are actually all adopted. So that's one thing that's really special for us. We're very open about our adoption. We struggled, obviously, we couldn't have biological children. That was a hardship for us, but we kind of worked through that, and this was the right path for us. And so we just, we talk about it, we're open about it, and it's just a really special thing in our lives. So all our kids are open adoptions, so we have relations with all their birth parents to one degree or another. Some of them our kids call on the phone to talk to. Others don't really want a relationship, so it's, maybe we're just friends on Facebook, and occasionally they'll like a picture. We're really defer to whatever the birth parents want. Whatever they're comfortable with, we will do, but we're very open. So Cable was born in Oregon when we lived there. He was born in Lebanon, Oregon, but his birth parents are actually from Baker City. So we see them a little bit. He has 2 full biological siblings, so we see them some. Jaron was born in Indiana. That was kind of fun. So, I'm a Michigan Big Ten guy, but he's decided he's an Indiana guy. It's kind of fun. Vivian was born also in Oregon. She was actually born in Seaside. So the story there, I went in early one morning to round. It's about 6 in the morning. I was just kind of checking in on staff. And so I'm walking around, and one of the nurses comes up to me and says, Mike, I can't believe you're here. This woman just delivered last night, and she's looking for someone to adopt her baby, and I've already told her all about you. And she wants to meet you. I'm so glad you're here this morning. I was like, oh, okay. So I went in and met her, and this lady was like, well, do you want to hold her? And I was like, sure. And then after a while I said, I need to step away from this situation. I don't want to get myself in trouble. I said, you need to work with a social worker. But we'd already made a connection, and this lady's like, yeah, Mike seems fine. I'd love to meet his family, and it worked out. So that's kind of cool for us. She's a great girl. She's real spunky. She's kind of a tomboy. I think she's got 2 older brothers. And then this guy is pretty adorable. I know Cordell hung out with him a little bit, Trish, and so he is actually, you might be able to tell from the picture, he's Hispanic. His birth parents are Hispanic, so that's kind of fun for us. And he's just got hair for days. And it's super thick and curly, and he's just a mellow, fun, pleasant little baby. So, and his name's Ruben. So his birth, we don't know his birth dad, but his birth mom lives in Nampa, so we visit her and have a good relationship with her. So yeah, they're pretty awesome, pretty cute kids. We're just feel really fortunate. We're very blessed, and we recognize, some people try and adopt forever and they don't have the luck that we've had. We're just, beyond blessed really to have these kids. So that's a little bit about us. Like I said, Amy's in town, cruising around. She said she might pop into one of these, so maybe you'll see her around the hospital later today. So that's a little bit of my family. What do you guys think? Pretty adorable, right? Yeah, we're really fond of them. I don't know. I'm trying to think of anything else to share. Cable, really into Harry Potter right now. I'm embarrassed to admit I had never read Harry Potter, and so I'm reading it with him right now, and I just love it. Like, I want to read ahead without him, but then I feel kind of bad. So he and I are reading that together. He's just a real social, personal kid. Jaron is really I was talking to Julie about your husband. Jaron's really mechanically oriented. He loves to take things apart and put them back together and see how things work. Vivian loves horses. She is obsessed with animals. Any animal she sees, she wants to go touch it. I don't think she's seen a dog in her life that she hasn't gone to pet, or at least asked to pet. It's pretty cute. So she just loves animals. And then Ruben likes to chew on things, and yeah, he's just a really great baby. So yeah, all right. So that's the family. Any questions there? Yeah. So a little bit more about me. So I mentioned I speak Spanish. Amy actually also speaks Spanish too. So one of the things we like to do is travel. We try and go every other year or so. We'll go on some fun trips. So that's just some pictures we took. It's a struggle keeping up the language. So we try to do that. We tried for a while to teach our kids Spanish, but then we kind of petered out. But Cable's first language was Spanish. He spoke to us in Spanish. Then we moved, and he started school, and none of his family speaks Spanish. So, but yeah, those are some trips we've taken to. We lived in Mexico for a while. This was, I think, Guatemala, Peru, and this was our last trip. Was in Colombia. We went to Colombia. We were actually going to go on a mission trip, charitable trip to Honduras, and we were going to be interpreters and help out some medical mission trip. But then, a month before the trip, they had to cancel because of all these political problems in the country. And so Amy, we already got a babysitter lined up. We've already, paid all this money, and we have time off. So let's go somewhere. And she really wanted to go to Colombia, and I said, I don't want to get shot. I don't want to go to Colombia. But she did all this research, and she convinced me it was safe and it'd be fun, and it's really changed since the heyday of the Colombian drug wars. And yeah, she was right. We felt pretty safe. Obviously, we're pretty comfortable traveling, and we speak Spanish well enough. But we had a great time. It was just an incredible country. So I'm just trying to tell people, I'm not an idiot. I didn't just go to some war-torn country. We were safe and we had a good time. All right. Yeah. So there's a little break here. I have more to share after this, but a few other things about me. I didn't want to bore everyone with too many pictures. Kind of personality-wise, and things we do as a family. So we like to camp. We like to ski, which was, I think, where's Nate? I remember in March, Nate was giving me some insight around the ski resorts in this area. So we're excited about that. We like Michigan football. Personally, I like to run. I've kind of taken it up in the past 5 years or so. So I run usually on a treadmill, sometimes outside. I'm not as fast as Dr. Hansen, I don't think. How did that go? Did a lot of people beat him? I don't know.
We had 13 people that beat him that came within 3 minutes.
That's great. Yeah. What was his time? Now I'm like the competitive. Yeah.
It was 25 minutes.
25:05.
That's pretty good though. Okay. How many people competed all together?
We had maybe 25.
Nice. Yeah. That sounds like fun. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not super fast, but I'm fast enough. Yeah, we like Spanish. I like music. I like listening to music. I'm not super like I can play the piano a little bit, but I'm not that great. I have a younger brother, Jeff, the school teacher. He can just like improvise and he's amazing. So I really respect that. Yeah. So my style generally. So I told Julie some of this morning. So, I kind of like to joke around and have a good time. I'm a little type A. I think that kind of comes with the territory with a job like this. I'm pretty organized. I have lists upon lists. That's how I maintain what I need to do, where, and when, and it drives my wife crazy. Which is funny. I'm the oldest of 3. She's the oldest of 5. So we're both kind of type A. But even with that, sometimes I drive her nuts because I'll start the day and I'm like, so this is what I'm doing today. What are you doing today? And she'll just say, well, what do you expect me to be doing today? Like, what's on your list for me to do? But we have a good balance. Yeah, so I think it's important to just kind of enjoy life and have a good time. But I'm pretty big on getting the work done and make sure we're doing a good job. And so we can talk more about that too. I try to be pretty approachable, pretty open. If I can tell you something, I'll tell you. If I can't, I'll tell you that I can't tell you. And if I can't tell you why not, I'll tell you that too. I just want to be open and kind of good communication and transparency wherever possible. So that's pretty important to me. That's a little bit about me. I don't know, what do you guys think? What else do you want to know? Again, I feel like I'm rambling a little bit.
So, just from what you know about our hospital now, what are some of the things that you're excited about being involved in?
Yeah, well, obviously, we were pretty thoughtful about where we're going to land, right? Had kind of a checklist. So I got laid off. Weren't thrilled about that, but again, we thought, okay, well, there's something better for us in store somewhere. And there were job opportunities around, but not a lot in this area. We were kind of hoping to stay within Idaho, at least in the Northwest. But I had jobs I looked at and interviewed for in Washington and Kansas and different places. But the things I was looking for, geographic proximity, we were hoping to stay in this area. For proximity to family for one thing, and the things we like to do, like skiing, and there's not a lot of skiing in Georgia that I know of. Camping, those kind of things that we just love. So that was important to us. So we were kind of looking in this area. I like small hospitals. That's been what I've done. I think I mentioned all the hospitals I've been at: Hepner, Seaside, Mount Home, where I was in the leadership chair. They're all critical access hospitals. So I just kind of feel like that's my niche. I really loved it. And I think that has to do with kind of the culture and the feeling you get in a place like this. It just feels, I kind of use this word a little, maybe you guys have heard that, it feels like a family, right? And so I appreciate that. So those are some of the things we're looking for. And the things that attracted us to a place like this. Also, obviously, I think you guys are on a good track. You've received these recognitions, obviously, at top critical access hospitals for a couple of years. So to me, that's an external validation of some great internal work going on. And having interviewed and seeing the community, and I don't know, it just felt, to us, seemed like it checked all the boxes we were looking for. So we're pretty excited about it. So I don't know, I rambled a little bit there again. So did you want to specify or dig a little deeper there? Yeah, what else? Questions kind of about me or Tracy?
How'd you learn Spanish?
Yeah, so I served an LDS mission. I went to the Dominican Republic. Feels like a long time ago. So they speak a really fast Spanish there, pretty sloppy Spanish, and I picked it up well enough that when I came back, it's like I don't want to lose it. I want to keep it up. So I decided to get a degree in Spanish, and then I did this interpreting, which really helped. Which, because I'd learned to speak Spanish really quickly, really helped with my interpreting too. In fact, I got at the time there were like 6 of us in the state that were certified as court interpreters. So I had to do this big test, and So, and that was a ton of work. So it was a big part of my life, and it has been. And so we've tried to really keep it up. So, what else?
Your position may get bumped.
Say again?
Yeah, he's.
We've got Jared a lot to help us sometimes
No, no,
with
no.
PR and other times.
Yeah, I get a little rusty, particularly with the medical stuff. If you don't kind of keep some of that up, you lose it. So,
I got some ideas for that. I'd like to talk to
I
you
don't know,
about.
we can talk about that. Sounds good. All right. Well, I have a little more, like I said, but I'm trying to take breaks and see if there's some questions that have come up.
Where did your wife grow up?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So she grew up outside of Boise, Caldwell. Maybe you've heard of Caldwell. So yeah, we met at ISU. One of my best friends from college, he and I roomed together at Pocatello, and he had a big crush on my wife. And it turns out now we're married, and he and I don't talk very much. I know we're still friends. I mean, we're still in good touch, in contact quite a bit. But yeah, so she ended up hanging out at our place a lot. And, we actually dated off and on for quite a while. Honestly, because I was dragging my feet more than anything. But marrying her was just probably the best thing I've ever done. She's just a great, great woman. So she grew up in Caldwell, and I said, I'm a farm kid from Burley, and she said, oh, I kind of live like on a farm, like by a farm. I said, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then when I first went to her house, it was just a vacant lot behind her house. Like, this isn't a farm. But it's funny because she was kind of on the outskirts of town, and Caldwell was just growing like crazy. So now it's just all new development all around her house. Okay. All right, well, I'll carry on a little bit, but keep thinking of questions and things we can talk about. So I want to see what I got here. So here's a recent picture. You can see my family again. So this is my mom, this is my dad. So this was about, when would this have been? May? Yeah, I think it was the end of May. Here's the deal with this picture, though. You can see my dad's in a wheelchair, right? So behind us, it's a skilled nursing facility in Burley. So life's just crazy. I mean, life's got its ups and downs. So I lose my job, trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I'm a little worried about time. I got bills to pay and things. I'm just trying to figure out how we're going to do this. And I was actually at a job interview somewhere else, and my mom calls and says, your dad's in the hospital. So, okay. So we get back from the job interview and go down. And it turns out my father had a brain tumor. That was the first they'd seen of it when I went to the hospital. It's a glioblastoma, which is, you don't want one of those. I mean, it's pretty much fatal diagnosis. So from mid-April on, my dad was just really sick. And he ended up, after going to the hospital in Burley for a few days, they couldn't figure out what to do with him. He had all these weird symptoms. It was kind of a complex case. So I kind of showed up and I said, my mom's kind of a homebody, so she kept telling the doctor, don't ship him anywhere. Like, I can't travel anywhere. And I think the poor family practice doctor was like, this is a little, he needs to see some specialists. So I showed up and I said, why don't you send him to Boise? It's not too far from me, and I'll be with him. So it worked out that I didn't have a job because I got to be with my dad. So he was in Boise for like 2.5 weeks. I think there's some pictures here. But it was interesting for me too, right? Because the system that had just laid me off, now I'm like living at their hospital. So I lived beside my dad in the hospital for quite a while. While they did the biopsy and tried to do all this tests, it was just kind of horrible, tough situation. So you can see I took some pictures there. Then we are visiting him, and I just got to be with him. And so they did the biopsy and it confirmed this glioblastoma. He chose not to pursue any treatment, which I think was the right thing for him. Because you can do chemo and radiation to try and prolong, but once he had the biopsy, he just really declined quickly. Because then after the biopsy, he really couldn't use his right side of his body. It was a tough deal. So after Boise, he ended up in the facility in Burley, the nursing facility that I mentioned. And then we got him home on hospice. And so for basically from April to July, I just spent a ton of time with my dad, which was a blessing and also just really hard. So, why am I sharing this? One, it's just interesting how timing works out, right? First, I'm really worried about my job situation, and lo and behold, I'm unemployed and my dad gets really sick. So I have all the flexibility in the world and I can be with him and help out my mom who was really struggling, and my brothers had other stuff going, so I was kind of beside him, and that worked out well. but also it's just really eye-opening for me. You know, I've worked in healthcare. Obviously, I've been hurt, and I've had family members hurt. I've got kids, so of course, we have things that happen. But it's just a little different dealing with something like this, and being in the hospital so much, and in healthcare settings so much. I don't know, it just kind of changed my perspective a little bit. And I'll tell you, there's another picture there too. Good grief. I don't know why I'm showing. I know I'm getting kind of choked up. So I'll tell you what kind of catches me about all that. I think about my dad and my situation, and I think about this job here too. And one of the things that really attracted me and I like about this facility is this tagline here, right? Most caring hospital on earth. And I know that's been a big deal here, and having been through this experience with my dad, I just kind of reinforced me how important that is. Because we had a lot of great, really skilled technicians, doctors, nurses, but what stood out, and I think what always is going to stand out, is just the people that really cared for. Like, their care was obvious, and they treated us so well. I don't know, the whole experience with my dad, I just thought about that a lot, about how important that really is to the whole healthcare experience. So I share that, kind of Jared, to build on your question too, like what attracted me about a place like this. I love that about this place. I haven't even really started yet, but it just really is important to me. I want to be at a place where that's called out, that's important, and we want to build on that, and we continue to prioritize it because it matters. And you know, my dad did pass away mid-July, so we've had the funeral and all that. And so for me too, it's like, man, this is great, because I didn't move to Georgia. I'm still close. I can still see my mom. In fact, we saw her yesterday on the way through, and so that's a blessing too. So we're really excited about that, and obviously, you know, sad about Dad, but you know, those are things that happen. So, all right. Well, I didn't want to get too sentimental there, but there you have it. So I think I've got one more picture to show. So this was in March, when I heard about this job might be open back in February, and I like harassed Trish a little bit. I had a lot of people reach out to me and say, you know, from the state, the hospital association, others said, Mike, there's a job in Bear Lake that might be perfect for you. So I called Trish, like, what's going on with this job? I even called Cordell out of the blue. You know, and I'm not naturally like an aggressive guy, but I was like, I'm going to be bold. I'm going to let them know, like, I'm interested in this job. And so we decided to make a trip out here and just bring our kids out to see the area. And I asked Trish, we're going to come out just because, and when I come, would you host me and show me around? And she was gracious enough to do that. So when I got done with the tour, I had my wife take this picture of me. I'm crossing my fingers there. So yeah, we were just really excited even back then, and I'm really glad it all worked out. So I'm really excited about, you know, what's to come. I don't have enough under me yet to really understand all the priorities of what's going on. My approach generally is going to be kind of get a feel for things, meet people, understand where we're heading, and you know, my impression is we're on a good path. Obviously, there's going to be things here and there and hot spots and things to work on, and then work with the board and, you know, continue to chart a path forward. I'm really excited about it. So, all right, what do you guys think?
We'll keep you.
Oh, okay, okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. Any other questions or thoughts, comments?
We have some great employees here at the hospital.
Yeah.
And what will be your approach to get to know everybody here as fast as you can, so that you can get to know their personalities and what they do and how they function?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. Well, I've asked Vanessa is Vanessa in here? There she is. So she's going to help me start setting up some meetings just with, you know, some of the managers and stuff. We've already got some scheduled, and some of the providers. Start meeting some of those people. And then my hope is just be out and visible and walk around and shake hands and chat with people. And, you know, if folks want to meet with me, I'm very open to that. If you want to sit down and connect, you know, let's make it happen. I'm happy to do that. But I think generally is to start just trying to be visible and be around. And really, I'd like to think I come across as approachable. I hope I am. If I'm not, I'm open to that feedback. Because I'd love to chat with you and get your thoughts and, you know, and get to know you. So I know I shared this with the board and others during the interview process. I mean, I had people, the story is, so my neighbor right beside me, he works for Idaho Power, and he really doesn't want us to move. Our kids play together, and he doesn't. I mean, I guess I'm a good neighbor. I keep my yard clean. I don't know. So he doesn't want us to move. So he keeps trying to convince me to get a job with Idaho Power. Like he's trying to set me up with other leaders at Idaho Power to interview. He's like, you could do it, Mike. You know, if you're manager here, you can be manager there. And I've had other people ask me, well, are you going to stay in healthcare? And I really decided, like, I am going to stay in healthcare. I really like working in healthcare. I like working with, you know, skilled clinicians and others that kind of dedicate their lives to taking care of other people. Healthcare's kind of hard. It's complicated. It's emotionally draining. And I get that, but I love that it attracts, I think, really talented, altruistic, kind-hearted people. And talent, you know, just skilled. And so I love being around people like that. So I kind of build on your question. I just love meeting people like that and getting to know them and understanding their story and, you know, what drives them. So I'm excited about it. What else?
You gonna go to the employee party?
Oh, big question. Am I going to the employee party? Yes, I'll be there.
Okay.
I'll be in a dunk tank if you want me to. Julie,
They do have one available if you want me to.
Man, I spoke too quickly, actually. Yeah, no, I'm happy to be involved. I really, you know, my hope is to be involved in things and get out and, you know, be involved in the community. I think someone said, are you going to move here? We are going to move here. We're excited about that. It'll take a little bit of time. I'm going to probably commute a little bit till we find a place and figure out how we're going to sell our place and all that. But we'll get that figured out and get our kids in school here. Hopefully not like a month, or hopefully not even more than that. We'll see. But we're excited to get here and get ready for winter.
Perfect timing.
Yep. All right. What else do you guys want to know? Really, anything you want. I'm an open book. You guys want to hear a good joke that my son taught me?
Sure.
How do you get a Martian baby to sleep? You rock it. That's pretty good. That's about as good as they get from me. Just, you know. Anything else really? So what do you guys think? Like, what's on your mind? How do you feel like things are going? What are you worried about? What do you think priorities should be? I'm open to that. And if you don't want to talk about an open setting, that's fine. We can talk privately. But any general comments you'd share? Or how about this? What are you hoping for from me in this role? Better jokes? Maybe?
In general,
Do
just,
your job.
Just do your job, okay?
yeah, I think in general, just hoping the transition will go smoothly. That's always hard. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I'm sure you got the history, you know, from the board or others that, I mean, you know, I've been here 25 plus years now, and, you know, the original CEO, when I got here, had been CEO already for a long, long time, and,
Right.
you know, just retired 4 years ago or something. So, you know, significant longevity there, and so that change over the last few years has been pretty tumultuous, multiple levels and multiple reasons, and, you know, I gotta believe that everybody here and everybody who'll be here today is can be concerned and tenuous or want to make sure that transition goes smoothly, and you know, hopefully that will go smoothly, Mike. You know, I'm not sure how to necessarily how to make that happen for you, but hopefully, you know, communication will go well, and you know, as you kind of take some time to get to know all the departments and the department heads and the providers, hopefully that'll, you know, give you the direction you need to know how to move forward. So, you know, just hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn, but I'm sure everybody's really concerned about yet another change here.
Yeah.
And that's been hard because, you know, most of the long-term employees who've been here we've not had to go through this kind of change, which is amazing. You know, that just doesn't seem to happen, I don't think, in healthcare administration. Usually that is a revolving door, it sounds like, and we've been, I think, really blessed for all the years that we have stable administration. So.
Yeah, I think that's great input. You know, I don't know if I have much to say about that, but
No,
obviously I hope the same.
Yeah,
You know, I hope it goes
I'm
well.
sure you do,
and, my approach generally, I don't really like rocking the boat, so that's not my plan. I've had to at times. That just comes with a role like this. Sometimes you have to make decisions and change things, but I'm generally just more like, let's sit back, see how things are going, get involved, and I want to learn from you guys about how things are going, and so I'm excited about it. It'll go well. I'm open to feedback too. If I am going off course, I hope folks will kind of chime in and let me know. So. Good, thanks.
Mhm.
Speaking of, anything else?
I think it's, for me, it was refreshing when you pointed out the most caring hospital. I think that's something that, we've always taken pride in and almost for a while there felt like it was not a priority anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think it's refreshing to know that that's, a priority for you. That's, in the past when we've had our department head meetings and we'd come in a crossroads of what we're trying to decide to do, that was always something that, someone would always bring up, well, what would the most caring hospital do?
Yeah.
And
That's
so,
great.
for me, it was refreshing that you brought that back up and underlined that and that's important to you, so.
Perfect. Good.
So thanks for that.
Yeah, no, good, thanks for that feedback. Anybody else?
Would you be, looking at maybe, being here for quite a while? I mean, maybe you don't know that yet, but are you interested in long-term roots here?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say yeah. I mean, I don't want to box myself in because you never know what happens with life, right? But we're kind of tired of moving. We were pretty happy not home. We didn't have plans to move there because it was going well for us. And our kids are to the age where just hate to uproot and move them around. So, our hope is to just kind of settle in, and if it's going well, and stick around. So, yeah. Yep. What else?
I have a question.
Roger.
What are some ways that you did in the past in your with your job that you connected with the community?
Yeah.
Like, were there things that you did previously that you might try here, or are there different things that you want to be doing to
Yeah, I think
interact with them?
just some of that. Maybe I mentioned this a bit. Partly just by having kids, it's going to drag us out. We'll get them involved in things, so that'll be good. I've been involved in chamber, Rotary, economic development groups, whatever it might be. So I think whatever makes sense, and it's a good place for me to jump in and be involved. I don't know. My first job, my boss, the board chair, told me, you can be involved in anything you want, Mike, except for the school board. Don't get on the school board. It's too controversial. But I don't know if that's the case here, but that's always been kind of funny to me. So I don't know. I'll just find ways to get involved that make sense and kind of, I think, align with my interest. I'm not going to coach. I'm not as, they really tried in Hypner to get me to coach basketball because I'm tallish and look like I could play basketball, but I don't. And I had to really convince them, I don't play basketball. I'm not going to coach basketball, but I'll be on economic development group. And my wife will get involved too, I'm sure. I don't know. What do you think? What are your suggestions?
I think that the Rotary is a good
Right.
thing to at least be in touch with. I don't necessarily think you need to be a Rotarian or anything, but
Right.
the chamber is pretty strong here as well.
Good.
There's one down in Garden City as well, but I think at least coming and introducing yourself is a good start, and then we can kind of see what you're interested in, because I don't want you to be forced on anything either.
Right. Yeah, I think we want it to be a good fit. And I'd work, you and Tracy would probably be my first touch point to say, what do you guys think? Where would you want me to be involved?
Mm-hmm.
Just generally, if you guys tell me we'd like you to be here, Mike, I'll go. I'll be involved. So I think that's important.
Does your wife stay at home, or
Yeah,
does
she
she
does.
work? Okay.
Yeah, she chases kids mostly. And
That's
she,
a full-time job.
it
Yeah.
is, yeah. Yeah,
Definitely.
and my opinion, the more important job. This job's pretty important, but those kids. So she actually has a degree in Spanish and her master's degree in adult education. So she likes that kind of stuff. So
Awesome.
good. What else? All right, here's another question for you guys. How was this kind of presentation generally? Like I said, it was a little bit of a stab in the dark for me, but kind of hit the right notes. Is it what you were hoping for? Awesome, good. Yeah, were the kids adorable enough?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. I kind of talk too much about my kids. I just love
Kids are
them.
great.
Yeah.
You can start with them. No,
Yeah.
season.
Did you get any feedback? Anything you suggest? I've got 3 more of these coming up today, so I'm open to
I thought you
evaluate.
hit all the markers just right.
Okay.
I'll
Thanks,
just
buddy.
say, too, from a board perspective, I think trust is huge. And I think communication's paramount
Yeah.
in that. Being transparent as a board, we rely on you to be our leadership, the leader of the organization, and trust with the employees, making them know that they're valued, that their input's valued, that their ideas are valued, and that they're heard, I think is one of the biggest things. You know, we don't always land in the same place, you know, from a strategic standpoint, but everybody needs to be heard. Everybody needs to feel important and know that their contribution to the organization is critical. You know, we can't do without any of these people, and that's why we're a team. And I think it's important that that team culture, the most caring culture, that we continue to grow and evolve that in our organization. It's critical for us to be able to function and take care of people the way that we need to. We have to function as a team. And I think we've seen what dysfunction can do, and I think, you know, it'll be refreshing to see how you take the approach to, you know, assume that leadership role and to pull the team together. And I think we can accomplish great things. And so from a board perspective, you know, we trust that you'll come in and do a great job. We wouldn't have picked you had we not thought that. And I know that the staff will be behind you. And as you show them who you are and what you can do, I think that trust will build and grow. And so that's our hope as a board. We want the place to be successful. We want to continue to be and play an important role in the community. And so those are all things that are important for us. And we have great employees. We love them. We appreciate all the good things that they do. And we just know that we can't get along without them. So
that's great. Thank you. Just a couple thoughts in reaction to that. I'm a kind of a big believer in assuming positive intent, right? Just assume that, you know, people are doing their best and they have the right intentions and they're trying to do that. And I say that in part with communication. I know Julie and I talk about this a little bit. That's always a little bit of a challenge, right? How do you cascade information? How do you get people to understand what you're trying to do? And that's really hard. I think it's one of the biggest challenges in any kind of leadership role. Something I want to do well at. I'm open to feedback on that as well. So we'll work on that as a team, and, you know, are we doing it? And I think that's one of the reasons I just like, you know, connecting with people so they have that relationship. Because if they feel like there's a gap, I hope people feel comfortable just coming to me to say, hey, I'm not quite sure what's going on over here, and we can talk through it, and I'll just be open about that. You know, I'd like to say I've got a pretty open door. If anyone ever feels like, you know, I just want to talk, that's great. I'm open to that. But I also kind of believe in chain of command too, right? I think it's important if we need to get other people involved, and we'll do that. I'm not going to go around my leaders, because those people are in place for a good reason, and they're good people, they've got good experience, so we'll loop them in the right way too. And then I know the board would do the same thing with me, you know. So that's important. But those are just the things that come with a leadership role in any organization, and you kind of learn how to manage them, and if you do it right. I'm a big believer in kind of the value and importance of leadership. It matters, and there's definitely kind of a science and an art to it. And I want to be a good leader. I've got room to grow, and I want to do that, and feedback's part of that too. So I'm open to that. So. Okay, all right. Any other thoughts or comments? That was really helpful. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Is everyone awake still? I can't see. I really hope it's helpful. It's kind of hard. You guys don't totally know me yet, and there's a lot of folks here I don't know. So I hope you've been able to get a little bit of insight into who I am and, you know, what motivates me and what matters to me. That's what I was aiming for. Any other feedback on this? Was this picture approach okay?
That was awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah. It's cute.
Okay. Good. Yeah. Anything else? I'll probably work toward wrapping up. I would ask, so one call to action, I guess. Tell your friends. Because we're doing this all day. I'd love to have people at least get the, even if they can't stay, to come by, shake my hand, and meet me. I really want to just help people put a face to a name. And if they can stay, just to kind of learn about, you know, I guess learn about me. And I want other people's input too on how things are going. So, okay.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.